What's up, boxing fans? This is TBE Boxing, back at you again. Today's topic, Manny Pacquiao clout chasing Terrence Crawford after being stripped of his belt for inactivity. Let's chop it up and see what it's all about.
Got the money for minutes, pretty bitch, gotta show me titties. This is the life that I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? This is the life that I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? That life before riches, huh? That life before riches, huh? Pretty bitch, show me titties, huh? And I got the glazzy run up on me, I'ma make you get it. I'ma make you get it.
Okay, boxing fans, let's talk some boxing. All right, so as you all know, Manny Pacquiao was stripped of his title effectively. They're calling it, in recess, or that his belt is in recess, meaning that they have elevated Yordenis Ugas to full champion and put Manny Pacquiao in recess, basically like a timeout. So because he hasn't been fighting anybody, he has the belt now for almost more than a year now since he defeated Keith Thurman. And since that time, he hasn't defended the belt at all, or even attempted to defend the belt. He was talking about fighting, in MMA, UFC. Next thing we know, he was talking about fighting Ryan Garcia, who's a lightweight. So it seems like there's a lot of confusion going on with Manny Pacquiao in terms of what he's trying to do. It doesn't seem like he really wanted to be a welterweight champion to me. I mean, it looks like he was basically trying to cash out. Okay, and so he hasn't actually defended the belt or even attempted to defend the belt in any way, shape, or form. Basically just having the belt and holding the belt hostage, more or less. And so the WBA did the right thing and stripped him of the title effectively, even though they're calling it in recess. So I mean, what it actually means is that he can go ahead and he's like in a permanent number one contender status if he decided he wanted to fight for the belt again. So now, Manny Pacquiao, there had been rumors that he was supposed to fight Terrence Crawford, and that fight never came to fruition, okay, for various reasons. Now that Manny Pacquiao has been stripped of the belt, he's talking about fighting Crawford. We're hearing rumors now that he wants to fight Terrence Crawford. The problem with that is that while Manny Pacquiao had the belt, that fight was never made. At the time he was basically asking for around $20 million for that fight. I hear. Now that he has lost the belt, we're hearing that he's demanding $40 million. So I'm not really sure what that's all about. I mean, at the end of the day, you don't have the belt. You want 40 million. When you had the belt, you wanted $20 million. So how does that, that math just doesn't, work for me. I mean, what's the point of Terrence Crawford fighting Manny Pacquiao at this point besides the fact that, it's a name thing where, he'd get more known because there's a lot of fans that Pacquiao brings to the table, okay? There's money obviously involved in the sense that he will be getting, the fight would be a money fight in terms of pay-per-view. So other than that, there's no, I mean, what's it? I'm not saying that's, that's chump change. I'm not saying that's not something good. All I'm saying is that in terms of the belt and, legacy, besides money and name recognition, there's no real benefit to Terrence Crawford in terms of the actual belt, in terms of becoming undisputed at 147 pounds, because Manny Pacquiao doesn't have a belt anymore. Now, I'm not going to play down the legacy in terms of money and in terms of name recognition, okay? So there is that. But at the end of the day, it seems to me that a lot of people out there nowadays are using Terrence Crawford's name to clout chase, basically. Everybody, nowadays are getting points for saying they want to fight Terrence Crawford, but they're not actually fighting Terrence Crawford. So if you want to get your name out there, because Terrence Crawford is one of the most talked about persons on YouTube, basically. And so if you want to get your name out there, just say you want to fight Terrence Crawford, and next thing you know, your name is all over YouTube, all over the media. And it seems like a lot of people are using Terrence Crawford's name just for that alone. Okay, they're not necessarily wanting to fight Terrence Crawford. Okay, we saw Keith Thurman came out and did the same thing. We saw, Sean Porter is doing the same thing. I mean, supposedly they're in discussions now, to make the fight. But as far as I'm hearing, at this point, Sean Porter's turned down $2 million to fight Terrence Crawford, which a $2 million to fight Terrence Crawford would match Sean Porter's biggest payday, which was when he fought Errol Spence for the unification bout. But at this point, he doesn't have a title. That is Sean Porter. So, he's not really bringing anything to the table besides, is old. Not well, he doesn't even have an old, but besides a loss. I mean, he could lose to Terrence Crawford for $2 million because he's not bringing anything to the table really. So, I mean, I don't understand why he wouldn't take $2 million when he took $2 million and lost his title for $2 million. So, this is not making much sense. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it just seems that, just mentioning Terrence Crawford's name and your name together, is going to get you some kind of recognition out there in the boxing community, because then people start talking about this. It seems to me that's what people are doing. It seems to me that's what, Sean Porter is doing, because at the end of the day, Sean Porter is the mandatory to fight Terrence Crawford, but he has never really activated the mandatory. And he's been talking about fighting Crawford for months now, almost a year, and still hasn't activated the mandatory. Still trying to, talk about he's not taking this or that amount of money, and so I'm not really seeing that as a serious. I don't take that seriously. What Porter is doing really, okay. So until he activates the mandatory, I'm not going to take him seriously. I don't see why we should, okay. But now lately, I'm hearing that he's talking about, activating the mandatory. And so here comes Manny Pacquiao now. Terrence Crawford been trying to fight Manny Pacquiao for years, and just like how he's been trying to fight Errol Spence for years. And Manny Pacquiao has basically been ducking Crawford. I mean, that's the best way to put it. I mean, he hasn't taken on that fight, okay. And again, he was claiming that he want. Well, all right, let me just put it to you like this. Supposedly, maybe he's not ducking Crawford. Supposedly, the fight was close to be made, but it was, put off because of the pandemic. But I mean, I've heard it from Bob Arum's own mouth where he said that he blocked the fight between Terrence Crawford and Manny Pacquiao because he was worried about Manny Pacquiao. Okay, now this was before Manny Pacquiao beat Keith Thurman. So maybe after beating Keith Thurman, maybe Bob Arum had second thoughts about that. But I mean, you're promoting at the time. I think at that time, Manny Pacquiao was what top rank at the time. So and so was Terrence Crawford. So he basically blocked the fight, okay, because he was worried about Manny Pacquiao. And we all know, there's this talk about Bob Arum, and his NBF policy with no black fighters or whatever. He doesn't put up his fighters against black fighters supposedly because, they're too skilled. I mean, that came out in, from someone from inside of Top Rank came out and said that, that's the rumor going around, And I mean, Bob Arum is from the old school, so I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. At the end of the day, a lot of these guys, I would think that it's more than likely, probable that that's the case, but I don't know that for sure. But anyway, the bottom line is that he blocked the fight between Crawford and Manny Pacquiao, and I heard that from his own mouth, so I know that's a fact. Okay, and he claimed that he was worried about Manny Pacquiao. Now we're seeing that he's supposedly trying to make the fight now. I mean, I'm not sure how much I trust that he's actually trying to make that fight, but the bottom line is that Manny Pacquiao is now asking for $40 million, and Manny Pacquiao doesn't have a belt. So again, I'm not getting, there's something I'm missing here. You wanted $20 million when you had a belt. Now that you don't have the belt, you want $40 million. So how does that math work? I mean, that math doesn't really work that well for me. And so I'm not sure what this is all about. If it's just, I don't think. I mean, that sounds like he priced himself out of the fight to me. Okay, just like Keith Thurman priced himself out of the fight, and just like it looks like uh, Sean Porter's trying to price himself out of the fight, even though he's a mandatory. Okay, so he's trying to not fight Terrence Crawford, even though he's a mandatory to fight Terrence Crawford. He's trying to price himself out of that fight. So I mean, it is what it is. It looks like at the end of the day, Terrence Crawford is the real boogeyman at 147 pounds. Everybody claimed they want to fight him, but nobody's actually stepping up to the plate to fight him, and they all want to blame it on Bob Arum, saying Bob Arum is cheap, this, that, and the other. And at some point, we gotta look at these things and see for what it is. It's just excuses, really. If they really want to fight Terrence Crawford, that fight it could be made. Terrence Crawford doesn't duck anyone. He takes all comers. Okay, he's willing to take all comers, and a lot of these guys, just don't want to fight him. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, that's the burden of being the best. Okay, the burden of being the best is that a lot of people won't want to fight you because they don't want to take that loss. Okay, just like Errol Spence don't want to fight Crawford either. They don't want to take that loss, and so I guess it's a double-edged sword for Terrence Crawford. When you're good, I guess there's such a thing as being too good, and it looks like this is the situation that Terrence Crawford is in right now, pound for pound champ. But unfortunately, people claim they want to fight him, but they end up pricing themselves out of fighting him, and then they want to blame it on Bob Arum, and Bob Arum is cheap, this, that, and the other. So that's where it is as far as I'm concerned with this Manny Pacquiao thing. I don't really think Manny Pacquiao really wants to fight Crawford. I mean, asking for $40 million to fight Crawford when you were willing to fight, you claim for $20 million where you had a belt, to me is suspect. And I'm kind of wondering that what's going on with Manny Pacquiao at this point. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this video. I just wanted to bring that out there. I think that, I'm not really sure Manny Pacquiao really wants to fight Crawford. It doesn't seem like it to me. But, you let me know what you think in the comment section. Make sure you like and subscribe. Okay. This is TBE Boxing. I'm out.